Hey, Greg, thanks for joining us today. As we're getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Well, hey there. Good morning. My name's Greg Peischer. I'm the Global VP of Sales for ARIA Cybersecurity Solutions. Um, I've been in the field of sales for quite some time. Started out as an engineer back in the day in radar and DoD applications, and found myself asked to be in sales. Said that you'd be pretty good at it. I said, no way. I'm never going to do this. And here I am after about 35 years. I'm still doing it.
Yeah. What was that first year like going from engineering into sales?
So the good question because it was a transition. It was they called it marketing, field marketing. So it was a technical type of dive. You'd sat in meetings with the technical people, the real propeller heads, but then you started talking about the commercial aspects. So it was a nice transition. It wasn't just bang, you're out there just trying to hit numbers right away.
Yeah. And did
Yeah.
you like
So
it at first?
yeah, it was great. I went educated as an engineer and really dove into the technologies, but I was born a sales guy. So I'm a people person. I like the interactions with people, trying to figure out what they're trying to do and how do we work together. Um, yeah, so sales really suits me very well, but I like the engineering aspect because it differentiates me in that sales environment as well.
Yeah. And did any of the engineering transfer other than the product knowledge and the problem and solving? Did-
Well, that's the main thing is everything that we do really is about problem solving. So having the math background and having the discipline from engineering that goes along with the people and the behavioral aspects is really valuable. So yeah, absolutely. We're all connected, top to bottom, side to side, we're all connected. And the more we know and the better processes we have, the more effective we're going to be.
Well, I had a similar experience, more on the software side than on the double E electrical engineering side. But what I learned was I didn't know the business side of it as well.
Right.
How do you get what the engineers want purchased,
Right.
funded?
Right.
Was that new to you or did that come natural?
Well, yeah, you start off as an engineer and you're problem solving, and I was in the software side, so I was all
Where were
software,
you?
always have been software, yeah. So the conceptual side of it, there was never anything physical there, so we're we're always making stuff up.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that go ahead and just you can cut this part out, but I say what you were saying again. I lost my train of thought on that.
The business, the engineers select you or they select your competitor. How do you get
Mhm.
the administrative side done? Get the funding, get the approvals.
Yeah, that was all like magic, right? I had no idea how any of that stuff went on,
Yeah.
and learning the business aspect because I was always so steeped in the technical, the physics and the math that all right, well, how does the business actually work? And we have our own preconceived notions of how it should be done as engineers, but it's not how it's done, not at all. So yeah, that probably took me as I transitioned into sales, probably took me the longest period of time to get that was probably 5 or 6 years to really get that down. And how do people buy? What are the politics behind buying? What's your product? The size of your company versus the size of the project. Will they buy from your size company? I've always come from smaller companies, so
Yeah.
trying to play with the 800-pound gorilla is not probably the best way to go. You're going to get squashed. They won't buy from you. You've got a partner. There's all kinds of things in there that you've got to think about. Yeah.
Did somebody teach you that, or was it just trial and error?
So I've always worked for smaller companies. So companies that were in the 10 to 20 people. And
Wow,
so I
that's
would come
small.
in. I actually had to figure out the company I worked for 20 years, I had to figure out the processes along with a really talented team of a small team of just a handful of people of how to place the product in the market. What's the strategy to go to market strategy through what partners? How do you get your product positioned within resellers that you're going to get mind share? There's a whole lot of things to do. So that all that was figured out over time, a lot of trial and error. I came from a company that was never invested in. We had to recreate ourselves every year. So I also had to figure out how to diversify
Yeah.
geographically and vertical market wise on what was hot and what was not, so that we could maintain our balance of funds coming in every year.
And what kept you there?
Great question.
It
So,
sounds like a
I
hard
mean,
job.
it was. I got to tell you, where I came from, it was a supremely difficult
Yeah.
setup from all angles. But what I loved about it was the team of people that I was working with were really talented, way underappreciated, but really good people. We would talk at all hours of the day and night together because we cared about our customers, and our customers knew that we cared. And so it was much more like an extension of family.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I have one life. My life includes work and fun, and it's all intermingled, and it's all great. And I have fun at work, and I have fun doing my personal things. And I really don't have a time where I segment between the two because I love it all.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
great
right.
place to be.
It is a great place because most salespeople, it's financially driven or competitively driven, and they love their customers, but the company, it's kind of
Yeah,
a love-hate relationship in some cases.
yeah. And I get that too, because you've got, that's why the reason why I love your podcast is it's brutal.
It's the
You know,
truth.
it is such the truth. And I have to laugh. And, the bottom line is everybody at the top who doesn't have the experience in the evolution of sales and how it works, they just demand and they beat on the table and they talk about numbers and KPIs, and it's all a bunch of, brutally honest,
Yep.
it's nonsense,
It's nonsense.
And so when you try to go to the board, the guys at the board, and say, look, take it easy here. This is a process, and you talked about a process a couple of weeks ago. There is a process for how things work naturally. So I live on a farm, and I get a chance to see nature, how plants grow, how animals grow. You don't go to harvest like now. You have to plan.
Right.
There's a lot of
The
hard
plant
work.
doesn't
You,
care.
you, you got to have some luck along the way because of weather conditions and all that.
Yep.
And there's so many parallels between the natural world and selling. And I understand um, the methodology that you're trying to make the best decisions you can, but there's a point where you overshoot you get over your skis on the data, and then guys start manufacturing the
Data.
information, and it means nothing, right? And so, I guess that's one of the things that I love about being in leadership is knowing full well what matters and what doesn't, and being able to strongly articulate to those above me who are looking for results to say, take it easy. It's a plan. It's a 4-quarter ball game here. We're in the first quarter. This is what we're doing. We have to size up our defense. We have to size up the dynamics on the field. And from there, we can see the opportunities, and we have to use our team to see those opportunities and empower them to do that for us to get the data so that we can get you what you want. But you gotta trust us, and that we're missing a lot of that today. It's, hire some young guy, teach him some silly process, have him do stupid activities, and hope you win. You know,
Right. And they do that because they see, a big successful company doing it. But you're not a big successful company yet.
well, but think about what a big successful company is. They've already built their
They already
bases. They
planted.
have their reputation, and it's all they're doing now is harvesting.
Yes.
And here's the other thing too is you never get fired by picking the ones that are the common players, the old SAPs, the IBMs. You don't lose by picking those. You don't get fired for doing that. So the innovators in business pick the old guys for the old reasons. Actually, the non-innovators. The innovators are looking for something different in the market that's going to change the game,
Right.
and that's where you have to be an evangelist. You have to believe, and you have to be willing to understand the fears of the people that you're selling to. And I for years I had a joke with my president of our company, that I'm not in sales. I'm a conceptual choreographer, and all I do is take and understand the thoughts that my prospect has and rearrange them in a way that they can see how our solution makes their world better. And that's really all we're trying to do in sales, is make the world better
Yeah.
in my
And
mind. Okay.
right. And as a leader, do you get that, still have that frustration internally, or does that take up a lot of your time? Kind of
You
selling
mean from
inside?
the less over time?
Okay. Once they get to know you.
Mainly I say less because I have probably more of a backbone to stand firm and
Yeah.
say, look, listen, I understand your concern here, but have you considered this, this, and this? And you hired me to do a job. You got to trust me to go through the process. So I'm much more into the mode of, instead of getting worked up over somebody challenging me, I accept that they are going to challenge me, and it's okay. I'm an open book. I'm transparent. Now, if you want to challenge me, spend the time to listen to what the answer is. Don't just demand, bang on the table, and point to the numbers.
Yeah.
You have to understand the circumstance.
And what keeps you in sales?
What else is there?
Farming?
I
I don't
mean,
know.
oh, listen, you don't want to go there. If you knew what
No.
farmers had to do, it's the
I
hardest
worked in a
job on the
farm.
planet. Oh, listen, I mean, there's something there's it's not me. Okay. I get bored quick. So what I
Okay.
am is
You like variety.
I'm an innovator, and I'm an entrepreneur, straight up. So I built my farm from scratch. I have a wedding venue that I run on it. I build the business, I show it, and then I hand it off to somebody else to run it and operate it. I don't want to do all that stuff. I'm not a maintenance guy. I
Yeah.
hate maintenance. What I do is design things so that there is no maintenance, or as little maintenance as possible. And then like even with my own family, I don't tell them what to do. I ask them what would they like to do, and I try to provide an environment for them to have an opportunity within that to do what they want to do to make them happy. I'm not the guy that's going to sit behind a desk all day. That's why I broke out into sales in the first place. Um, I travel around the world all the time. So I'm out next week over in the Middle East, and then I'll be in Southeast Asia. I love it. I get to see the world. I get to see all the problems. I get to meet really great people everywhere and connect. And that's what I love about the world, is connecting in it. And
Yeah.
actually, I spend a lot more time than most people think talking about the person I'm with's problems, and then helping them find a solution that it doesn't have anything to do with me, but it builds credibility so that when they need what I have, it's not even a question. They just come.
Yeah.
So you have to share.
And what do you look for in a salesperson? Because I'm sure you've hired some good
Oh
ones.
my
And
goodness. So my ideal candidate is a college athlete. Um, and the reason why I love athletes, and I was at one point in my career an athlete, and the beautiful thing about athletes is they go to practice without any expectation of a result other than a personal feeling of getting better. They have no expectations of making the team. They have to perform to make the team. Once you make the team, then you have to earn the spot to be a starting player. That doesn't guarantee your team's going to win. Now you got a whole another level of teamwork to actually have the team win. And then if you're going to win the championship, you have to be exceptional at what you do. And that means that all of the interactions with your team, if you want to build a championship team, everyone on your team has to police their own and they have to be coachable. And I think you talked about that in one of your podcasts or your snippets. Um, Being able to take criticism and not take it personally and look at it being, metal on metal sharpening you, sharpening the saw, that's a unique individual.
It
Because
is.
we've got lots of people that want to go to their safe spaces today. And I'll tell you what, I just, I don't have a whole lot of time for victimization or
And,
feeling the victim.
which is kind of the opposite of coachability, isn't it?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
the world's
Hmm.
got to work my way, otherwise I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
unhappy.
Yeah. So I've had great success with, actually, what's funny is I don't use headhunters or
Really?
recruiters. I find people I know and I look for certain traits in them, and then I can coach them to do. So I've hired some young folks out of college with no experience that were working um, in an auto insurance capacity in an office,
Yeah.
pulled them out, put them in a high tech world, showed them how to do it, great coachability. And all of a sudden now these guys are directors of technology companies, which to me, that is probably the coolest thing for me is to take a young guy, nurture them and they move up. It just shows that you've really uh, farmed them well, taught
And
them well.
give me some feedback on this because I've kind of have this epiphany that why sales is so hard to learn is that most of it's counterintuitive, or almost all of it's counterintuitive. Listening's counterintuitive,
Mm.
trying empathy's counterintuitive.
Well, yeah, fundamentally, what's counterintuitive is people are thinking about themselves, and
That's intuitive.
selfishness is the thing that you try to avoid. If you
Yes.
can, so I kind of wax back to the reason why I didn't want to get into sales at first, and I thought that sales was horrible, was because of watching that Glenn Ross movie
Yeah.
with Alec Baldwin. It was offensive. It was a kind of a repulsive thing that all we're working for is to move a piece of crap into somebody's hands so you can get riches.
Yes.
And so you're kind of waxing back to the question. I personally have learned that if I can take myself out of the equation and I am working on connecting my vendor's intent of their product, the manufacturer I work for, and look at the customer and look what they're really needing, and I can take myself out of the idea that I'm going to make commissions or I'm going to make riches out of this, and I just purely do it for the point of providing value to the world through the customer, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
What we do is sales. We're the most important people on the planet. We walk into a place and we say, allow me to introduce myself. I'd like to tell you about this product. You don't really do that, but what you're there to do is to say, hey, look, Johnny, we got this product here that can save you X, Y, and Z. Your bottom line can go down. You can go to market at a lower consumer cost, provide a better value to your customers, get more market share, and provide something better to the world. Okay, so I go to a lot of poverty-stricken places where manufacturing is, and I see this. And the bottom line is if we as salespeople can provide a better way, not thinking about our own riches, we make the world better. And that might be like thinking way too deep about it. But
Well,
honestly, I don't personally need anything with this. Um,
and
Go ahead.
plus, in business to business sales, you're not going to trick anybody into buying anything.
No, no,
It just
no.
it's not a one meeting close.
Yeah.
But it's a journey.
Yeah. So I find myself in that trying to empathize with them
Yes.
Okay, what's your problem? Is your problem that you can't see financially how this works? Oh, no problem. I'll build you a ROI calculator. I'll show you exactly where the ROI is and how you can go to your management and explain this. Or I can show you based upon competitive products, the piece that we do that they don't do, or the methodology that we have that they don't have, that's going to reap you either lower cost of ownership in labor or whatever. But usually it always rolls back to some financial gain or some savings as it applies to the operation with your equipment or what have you. And you have to not just sell your product and what it does. You have to have awareness of your um, environment around you. It's no different than playing on the field, playing on a football field, and you're a running back and you're looking at the holes in front of you. You gotta be aware of your surroundings, and that's where the athlete thing comes in, the work ethic, and all of that.
And was that football coaching experience helpful as a sales leader?
Actually, I was more of a basketball guy, but
Oh, in
but
basketball. I'm sorry.
I and I'm like I'm the king of metaphors. So I can give you a farming metaphor. I can give you a sports metaphor. So growing up, I played all kinds of sports. So individual sports, team sports, invaluable. Also, just the management. So given that I was growing up in the 70s, okay, the management of those teams were guys from World War II that had no time for any, for any kind of wimpy
No,
kind of
victim
behavior. So,
excuses.
we weren't allowed to go there. And so they always taught us to have that stiff upper lip and just suck it up. And we didn't have a safe spot. You wanted to be in or you're out back then. And so yeah, I think that's sales. You're either in or you're out. You don't get a chance to go, oh, but jeepers, it's not fair. Well,
You're right. It's not.
yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Now the question is, are you okay with that?
It's not going to change.
Right. Yeah, it won't. And so all of the activists out there that want to change the world for work-life harmony, let me tell you, this is what I tell my folks. Work-life balance. No work, no life. Balance, there's your balance. I'm not saying don't have fun, but you have to prioritize
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And I think personal responsibility has been kind of lost as well. It's kind of,
Accountability, yes.
yeah, how do I
Yes.
spread it to everybody but me?
Yeah.
And I think in sales, how do you learn unless you own it?
Yeah. And you know what? One of my lines has been, if you don't think that I'm the guy for the job, fire me, please. If you don't have the gazunas to say that I'm in it, and if you don't see I fit and I'm out, fine, fire me. But in the meantime, I'm going to do what I know to do. And you have to have some confidence, not arrogance, confidence. And competence builds confidence. You don't have to be arrogant with that. And a lot of people misunderstand that being confident is not being arrogant. Weak people think that confidence is arrogance.
And what do you wish you knew back that first 2 or 3 years in sales that you know now?
Let's see. I think I wish I knew what sales really was. I wish again, I think what's really important, mentoring is really important. I've taken that really personally for the people that are on my team, is spending the time to mentor them. So I didn't have a vision or a view. I came from a very humble family with no sales. It was all blue collar stuff. So I actually started roofing when I was younger. Okay,
Wow.
so when you have that mindset, I couldn't see what the whole thing was about. But I think the other thing too, that I'm a very transparent guy, open. I'm not really concerned because I've been through the sporting, and I've you don't have a place to hide when you're on the court. You make a mistake, you got to go, "Oh, okay." Um, So what I didn't realize was that sometimes your management will steal your rewards. They'll steal your rewards by taking credit for the things that you do and will hide you. I saw some of that early on in my career, and you got to get away from that. And so I didn't know the playing field, just like I didn't know the business part of it early on.
Yeah.
I didn't really know the politics of what people that the armchair quarterbacks that are managing things that don't really know how it works, but they control it. I didn't really understand that level as much as I do now.
And what do you find harder, leadership or sales?
I think that if I were to run by myself, sales would be simple. Sales would be a vacation for me. I get my bag, I go out, where are we going today? Let's go talk to this person. No problem. I connect and just, the leadership aspect that we deal with different personalities. I actually have a coach that I've used recently. I'll plug him, Mac Arrington. He's an outstanding coach. He allows me to see things that I couldn't see before when it comes to behavioral sides of folks. So I'm an engineer. I'm not
Psychologist.
a, a sociologist or that kind of thing, right? But I get it, right? So we did assessments for everybody on our team to determine where do they fit on the spectrum of, are they an entrepreneurial sales guy or are they a managerial person? And that kind of allows us to determine, how do we figure out how to make these folks happy? Where do we put them in the organization and how they work? That's difficult because, again, what someone thinks of themselves and what they believe they are versus what they really are two different things. And sometimes you have to get real blunt. I'm a straight shooter guy, but there's a point where you just, it's difficult. It's more difficult in management. And then if you're talking about the leadership side of it, most of the folks of the company I'm working with right now have been outstanding, excellent people. Um, we're just trying to figure out how to manage the messaging back and forth. That's difficult,
Yeah.
more difficult. Being in sales is, I think, it's more straightforward than being in management and leadership. But I like where I am right now. I couldn't ask for a better position, or work with some better people. I'm working with great people right now, so it gets me excited.
And have you found it challenging to, because in sales leadership, you know, the challenge sometimes is you want to treat everybody the same, but they're all different.
I don't treat everyone the same,
You don't. Okay.
and no, you can't. And if someone wants to call you out on that, I don't have a large organization. Again, I've got a handful of people out there, and there are differences. And so what I typically do will separate them by role, different aspects of the selling organization. And yeah, when we start getting larger, yeah, you've got to get more standardized. I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah.
But again, people are people. So every sale's different.
Yep.
Even a sale within the same company is different from one moment in time to another. Just like people are different, and like you said in a past um, podcast, that we're selling, we're working with people, and people are different. And so to standardize is to disregard the human nature of what we do. And sales is human. It's just baseline human. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Is there are not many people that have the ability to switch it up and be dynamic within their conversations from one moment to the next. It drives my kids nuts, by the way, that I can switch gears like instantaneous. And but that's I think what makes me different.
Right. Hey, Greg, really appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Great question. So I work at Aria Cybersecurity Solutions. You email me at greg.peischer, P-Y-S-H-E-R, at ariacybersecurity-solutions.com. Um, and I'm on LinkedIn, just Greg Peischer. Just look for the big bald guy.